Well, 2020 is the year that keeps on giving. So today, Amazon worked out naming rights and bought that up with Seattle, and they went with the Climate Pledge Arena. And there are certainly people who will defend it. Here's the problem: all I have to do is go to Google and type in Amazon employees, and you get a lot of not necessarily great things to do with Amazon. So I'm going to just discuss a little bit of this here. By late May, at least 8 Amazon employees had died of COVID. What we're going through, right? So there's been a lot of talk about how they are overcrowded warehouses. They weren't using proper safety techniques, and there was debate back and forth between Amazon and its employees. Amazon then said, "Okay, so we'll listen to the employees," and then went back to the employees that started this outreach and this outcry and said, "You're in trouble because you should have kept your mouth shut." So this is the thing, where we get into the weeds on this, and the funny thing is that there is certainly a lot of talk on one side about how horrible one person is, and then on the other side, oh, your guy's really bad. Can we just all agree that there's a lot of guys who are complete pricks that end up having a lot of money, and Jeff Bezos is probably not one of the most amazing people on planet Earth? That just seems to be a reality here. 187 employees in their Minnesota facility currently have tested positive, and they have like 15,000 employees, and there's some concerns that it's a lot worse than this, and there are employees that don't want to go to work. But you may be in a situation where if you call in and go, "I don't feel safe at work," where locally you may not be able to have any kind of an unemployment benefit, because unemployment's going to look at that and go, "Well, they were open. Why didn't you go to work?" "I didn't feel safe." Well, that's not a reason not to go to work. Certain areas, certain companies, if you don't feel safe, too bad, go to work. There's also at least 7 in San Antonio in a recent article as well, where they said there's at least 7, and they're concerned that it's a lot more than that. And Amazon is just rifling everything through, because Amazon's had record profits. Yay! So while there's a lot of companies that during this time are going under, a lot of small businesses that are going completely out of business, Amazon's raking in lots. $4 billion in profits during the last quarter because, of course, people are shopping online. They're not going to brick and mortar stores, and Amazon's going to benefit from that. They have hired thousands and thousands and thousands of people. The benefits, well, it depends on where you're working. In some cases, you might get paid well. In some cases, you may not. Chicago workers for Juneteenth were offered chicken and waffles, which it's not exactly a racially sensitive thing to offer people. So, it's a tone-deaf offer, and whether the employers, the people in charge meant, "Oh, well, we meant this to be celebratory." Whatever they meant, didn't come across very well. It was seen as tone-deaf. There's also questions about this. So, climate, net zero, net neutrality. By 2040, everything's going to be all green, and we're going to be net neutral. Why do they send giant boxes of everything? So when I order something from Amazon and it's a small item and I get it in a giant, huge frickin' box, and I'm like, why is this in this packaging? Well, this is ridiculous. You could have put this in just a regular envelope. Why is it in such huge packaging? You can't make the claim of, "We're trying to make the earth better. Here's all our giant cardboard boxes we're shipping out today." Those two things don't go together. So this is the problem. There's a conflict here in terms of what the company's saying and what the company's actually doing. And there's a lot of discussion about whether or not there's racial equality. So last week they come out, and the BLM movement, everybody's got to have their statement, and their statement was, "Oh, we've got to deal with inequality," to which people of color working for Amazon went, "Pardon?" Because they've been calling attention to these problems in the company itself, to which the company's gone, "Everything's fine. Everything's fine." And there are definitely instances where I've seen employees being interviewed for the news, and they've hid their identity because they're worried about being fired for speaking out about the state of things. And any time that they try to unionize, they get threatened that they're going to get shut down and they're going to get completely annihilated, because how dare you even threaten to unionize? And I'm always suspicious of a company that makes an absolute truckload of money and threatens any sort of a unionization effort. I've worked at a company that did that before, And I always thought it was really suspicious. The whole you unionize, we're gonna close up shop. Don't you dare unionize. Why? What are you worried about? So, and I mean, and it happens where people vote in favor of a union, and then the company goes, all right, well, we'll go over there because you guys unionized, so we'll have to pay you a decent wage, so we're going to leave. Uh, there are a lot of things wrong with Amazon right now. There are a ton of things wrong with the company Amazon, and they're worth $1.36 trillion. They profit greatly off being anti-union, keeping wages maybe reasonable, but not necessarily as high as they otherwise might be if they were fair considering everything. But what's fair? And again, this is all that whole, well, it's, capitalist company and nobody's forcing them to work there. Unless you read between the lines right now during a pandemic. And absolutely, there are people being forced to work in situations they feel are unsafe, where the company will come out and go, don't worry, we're social distancing in all the warehouse. And then warehouse workers come out and go, no, they aren't. And they go, you keep your mouth shut or else you lose your job. Ta-da! So that's the problem. That's where we're at. So for anybody who's like, hey, that's great. Amazon named the new building the Climate Pledge Arena. That's great. Uh-huh. Yeah, you know what else really shows you care about the earth? Treating people like they're not crap. You can make whatever name you want. You can call it whatever you want. You can make all these wonderful public pledges. This is why during the whole BLM movement, the whole Black Lives Matter movement, I have not made all these public pledges and everything because they don't mean anything. It really doesn't when you get down to the meat and potatoes of it. It doesn't mean anything. Your actions say a whole lot more than that, especially when everybody's doing it. And then you see, oh, this guy didn't say it. Look out. He might be a problem. Are you seriously? So all of those people that have said something publicly are just magically better and they're magically awesome? Yay, we fixed everything. Well, I had a black square on my Instagram for a day, so I fixed everything. What else can I do? I don't know, something. Anyways, so there you go. If people make a statement publicly, everybody can go, that company's great, good for them. Just ignore all the other stuff they're actually doing, and you're good. Speaking of stuff companies are actually doing, how about WWE? Holy crap. So they're not even telling their talent how many positive tests there were, how many they administered. This has all come out in the dirt sheets over the last couple of days. They're not telling their talent much of anything. So we're seeing talent come forward and go, positive, I tested positive. Renee Young came out, tested positive. Kayla Braxton came forward, she tested positive. Kayla Braxton's problematic. She had this in March, and she came through it, and now she's got it again. So when I see people saying, well, we should just let it wash over, and you'll just deal with it, and it'll be like anything else, you get better, and you can go back. What about when you get it again? What about people who get it repeatedly? We just don't know. So Kayla Braxton, the bad news for her is it seems to be, and this came out of Korea as well, that people that get it a second time get hit a lot harder. Because think about it, you've got the antibodies in your system, the virus that's going to get through that is likely going to have to be stronger, or maybe your body doesn't create the antibodies. And again, this is all the stuff that they're trying to do all the testing and studies on. So, all the best to her and to Renee Young and to anybody else who's tested positive. We know it's double digits. We don't know how many because they're not telling. And yet, NXT talent were told, you guys all have to be at the tapings on Friday and Saturday. You are expected to be there. All of you. So while we have a lot of talent backstage saying, we think this should be shut down and we need to have extensive testing, the WWE is going, okay, so we're going to test now before every show, which they weren't doing, and we're going to tell our talent to isolate, which they weren't doing. And all they were doing was the temperature tests and just asking people to fill out a questionnaire. That's it. Yeah. Uh-huh. So now they realize, oh, this could be a problem. And now Roman Reigns looks brilliant. Sami Zayn looks brilliant. Kevin Owens looks brilliant. And whoever else decides, you know what, I'm done. I'm not doing this. They're going to look probably pretty smart. So KO, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, good call. Good call. This company is definitely taking a risk. Because again, if we hear a week from now that Kayla Braxton took a turn for the worse and she didn't survive, I don't know how you spin that. I don't know how you spin that. I really don't. Now, AEW, who have been testing wrestlers regularly. They have been performing actual tests on wrestlers regularly. And the real test. One thing that came out today too was that Lexi Kaufman, everybody knows her as Alexa Bliss, came out and talked about how stringent the test was she went through, and how much more invasive it seems and how much more difficult it is. Yeah, that's the real test. So AEW's been doing that the whole way through. The problem is, while AEW is still planning on doing tapings, if they go on hiatus, they could lose their company completely. They could be canceled. They have to be producing new content or they can get canceled. So AEW's in a really tough spot right now, where there have been a couple of close to personal, like obviously John Moxley, Renee Young, right? They're together, they're married. There are some concerns. There are some genuine concerns with AEW. They are doing their best to go through this, but how far can you go? And again, when you are putting on these shows, in WWE's case in Florida, where what was reported today was over 27% of tests that are taken are positive. Over 27%, and it's considered problematic to be any higher than 10%. Yeah, Florida's just, oh man. Anyways, we'll see what happens there. So again, when you go, hey, we're allowed to put on shows here. These guys are saying that we can put shows on here. These other states are saying, no, we should go to the state where they let us put on shows. Maybe think about why. And maybe think about the long-term safety aspect of it. ROH, another wrestling company, is on hold. So they had put everything on hold. They were doing best of shows, and apparently that's going to continue for a while. So because of the numbers going up, they're saying it's too unsafe. So ROH has not had positive tests based on shows they've had. I don't know if anybody on the roster has tested positive. ROH has other issues as well, where certain wrestlers in their company have been accused of being horrible people. Marty Scurll being the most public of those being accused of being horrible people. And so ROH has that to deal with as well. All Star Wrestling, which is local here, came out with a good statement today. That's after ECCW came out with a statement yesterday that didn't go far enough. And seeing the exchanges on social media of mainly women who've dealt with a ECCW and their negative relationship with the company, but there's been men as well that have come forward and said, yeah, I saw this toxic environment and I left ECCW, which is a Canadian wrestling company out of Vancouver. And so there's a lot going on in the wrestling world right now, and none of it's good. None of it's good. It's all pretty much downhill right now. But we'll see how much longer they can put on shows at all. And I've talked about this on the main channel. I'll talk about it here. I don't mind TV productions existing. I don't mind wrestling programs existing. I don't mind sports existing. But it has to be done as safely as possible. You can't have a situation where you're potentially looking at somebody getting ill multiple times. And who knows? There was a report I read yesterday. And again, this is all just brand new data where people who don't show symptoms, they look at them after and they go, this person has scarred lungs. There's lung damage here. While we're in this process of still learning how all this works, you have to be as safe as humanly possible. We're up to what, June 25th? I haven't been outside my house other than one occasion since March 12th, at least off the property out of the house. And does it drive me crazy? Absolutely. There are days where it drives me insane. But I'm also aware that I'm 47 years of age. I'm not 20 years old. It is quite possible that if I contract this, I could be down for weeks. Yeah, I could survive. I could survive with scarred lungs. I could have increased high blood pressure. I could have a heart attack. But the reality is that you can look at mortality and say, well, that's the whole thing. But it's not. And so for me, I'm saying, you know what? I can't afford to be down for 2 weeks. I can't afford to be sick for perhaps as long as a month. So you can be sick for a couple weeks, and then it takes another couple of weeks to get your energy back. I can't afford that. So for me, that's why I'm as safe as possible. And I think if you're going to have wrestling, if you're going to have a business that's open, make it as safe as possible. And when your staff, when your employees say this isn't a safe environment, don't scream at them to keep their mouths shut. Don't get mad at them for talking to the press about how they're concerned. Sit down and talk with them and try to make it as safe as possible. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. And I'm looking forward to one thing. Premier John Horgan here in BC said in a press conference, I believe it was just yesterday, that if TV production feels safe to go on when they hit phase 3, which is coming up this coming week, they're fine with TV production starting. So a lot of television shows that you probably watch will be filmed in Vancouver, and they should be free to go back to work next week, where cases have been very, very low. And again, as long as it's a safe environment, I think that's just fine. Again, safety is paramount. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're safe where you are. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, I appreciate all the support throughout everything that we're dealing with. I will talk to you again soon.